Rob, good morning. Thanks for being with us. It only took 102 years in the making, but we finally got another World Series between the Red Sox and the Dodgers. The history just seems to be dripping from both teams heading into what should be a great fall classic starting tonight.
Well, we're really excited about the matchup. Two great teams, East Coast, West Coast. It really should be a good one.
As far as talking about the managers who were once teammates, I had said, you have any pull tonight that maybe Dave Roberts will throw out the first pitch and Alex Cora will catch it?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the level of competitiveness will prevent that friendliness before game one, but should be a great series. And it's a great story with the two managers. The fact that they were former teammates, Alex's first year, just a really good story in and of itself.
Along with that, through the postseason, another part of this has been the umpires. We've seen Angel Hernandez and Joe West, a couple of guys that have been pretty polarizing and pretty heavily criticized by players at times. Along those lines, when that's going on, what is your role as commissioner of baseball in getting involved in that situation to an extent?
Well, real time, there's not a lot that I can do. You really have to leave it to the guys that are on the ground, on the field. We feel like our replay system has been a huge plus for the game. Angel missed a couple of calls, but the great news is didn't affect the outcome of the game because replay got him right. I think the Joe West call is one of the toughest ones, and that's why the first in-park stationary camera that we installed was the one along the outfield wall to help the umpires with that call, because it's so difficult to get it right. And unfortunately, we had a ill-placed security guard in front of that camera on that call. But I think on balance, the umpires have done a phenomenal job. We've had some great plate jobs. I think the last plate job that we had in the National League LCS, I think there were 2 missed pitches, which is a phenomenal number.
Rob Manfred with us, the commissioner of Major League Baseball. Rob, along the lines as we're talking about umpires, Joel Sherman of the New York Post wrote last week that baseball needs to consider removing older and less physical umpires from being the left field and right field umpiring assignments in the postseason. Have you given much consideration to the physical fitness of the guys you're putting out there?
We pay a lot of attention to the fitness of our umpires, and obviously within the applicable legal restrictions, we encourage our umpires to be in the best possible shape. I think one thing that people don't understand about that boundary call, if you get too close to it, it's actually harder to make the call. I mean, I know there was a lot of criticism about running and being closer. If you think about the angles, and, I've heard this from umpires for years and years. As a matter of fact, Joe Torre was talking about it yesterday. If you get too close to that call, it's actually harder to make.
Talking to Rob Manfred, commissioner of Major League Baseball, here with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Rob, this postseason, we've got 2 big-time franchises, big markets represented in this World Series, big-time star players like Mookie Betts and Manny Machado on that one side. And I get interested going into this offseason with Manny Machado hitting the open market, Clayton Kershaw having an opt-out, Bryce Harper potentially being on the move. You've got a lot of the young faces of baseball that could potentially be ending up elsewhere. How much do you worry about the market that these kind of guys end up in and your ability as a sport to benefit from that?
I don't worry about where players are going to land. I think players have a way of making decisions about where they're going to play that kind of maximize their marketability. It's part of the calculus that goes into their making a decision. And, we really do believe our players, our great players, are great no matter which of our 30 markets they play in.
And there, no doubt, there are a lot of great players. And there had been talk, and we talked about with this to you once before about this, the marketing of players and players being out there and visible. And these are some great players being out there. Is there any more thought to what baseball can do? I know you had said players can do it themselves in social media, but can baseball do any more?
Well, look, I think that it's always up to baseball to do more. We have a couple of really innovative programs that we're working on for next year to provide additional support to players who are interested in being out there, interested in marketing themselves, but making them easy for them to do. For example, providing them support on social media with video highlights, things like that they can just go in, grab them, and get it out if that's what they want to do. I think the trick with players is that things are authentic. What we put on social media, through our accounts, it may be really good, but when you add the player input on their take on what's happened on social media, it's way more important to our fans because, at the end of the day, it's the players they're interested in.
No question. Rob Manfred with us, the Major League Baseball commissioner, getting set for what we hope will be a really good fall classic. Game 1 tonight at Fenway between the Red Sox and the Dodgers, a game, and you can hear all the games on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN Radio app. Rob, there's no question there are great fans in Fenway and Boston, great fans at Chavez Ravine that show out for the Dodgers and the Red Sox on a yearly basis. However, attendance was down 4% this season. Total attendance falling below 70 million for the first time since 2003, along the lines of trying to get the players out there and getting them more exposed and getting people to know their faces more on social media. How concerned are you about the drop in attendance, and what do you think Major League Baseball can do to try and counteract that?
Well, a lot of our attendance drop, we've obviously looked at it very carefully related to the weather in April. I think we played 2 games in 2017 where it was less than 40 degrees at game time. We played 35 in the month of April. That's not even counting the games we canceled in April, which was also a record number. Having said that, we're concerned about it. We're trying to do some innovative things. I think you probably have seen the commercial that we did for the postseason with Ken Griffey, kind of highlighting the emotion that our players bring to the field. We feel like that's a fresh look at our game. We think that fresh look is really important to attracting a younger audience.